and thanks for tuning in to In the News here at Globaltalkradio.com. Joining us from Austria today is Michael Ferris. Now, he started playing guitar at the age of 17. He went on to study at a university under the instruction of world-renowned players. He's appeared in Classical Guitar magazine and has published a book titled Crossing Borders, which tells about how he came to Austria and studied with Elliott Fisk. Michael, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, let's jump in first. Very exciting story here. Tell us about the story in Crossing Borders and how you got to study with Elliott Fisk.
Well, that is actually a lot of the story itself. I mean, it's the story of how I came to Austria as a very young, very naive young man, and basically went on. I got experience along the way, put in a lot of hard work, and I basically got to study with one of the most famous guitarists in the world. And but that actually isn't the high point of the story. The high point was basically my achievement here to actually go abroad on my own and learning several languages and such. It was just really the most exciting time of my life, and I thought it could inspire others.
What would you say is probably the most inspiring experience of all?
Well, the most inspiring experience of all probably is the fact that, it was always my dream to be a great classical guitar player throughout my life. And my father has a music store in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And, I was always surrounded by musical instruments, surrounded by the guitar, and it was kind of my goal in life to be able to play the guitar as good as well as possible. And I was 17 when I started doing that, and I basically, when I was 19, went over to Europe and started studying, and I actually made it to the point where I was studying with, like I said, one of the most famous guitarists on earth.
Now, I understand that you've since married an Austrian and you settled down. So, are you planning on staying in Austria now forever?
Well, for the time being, I really would like to stay in Austria. I mean, I really like Vienna a lot. It's a great city. Of course, I really love the United States as well. Possibly in the future, maybe in another 5 or 10 years, we might settle back down in the United States. But for right now, I think I'm going to enjoy Austria and enjoy everything it has to give me.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your passion for the guitar. Now, a couple years ago, you wrote an article that was featured in Classical Guitar magazine. Tell us about that.
Well, the article was basically, and I can say that my book is kind of based upon that article, because the article kind of was the incentive for me to say, okay, maybe you should start taking writing a little bit more seriously and kind of build that up. I mean, basically, the article deals with specifically how I got to go to Austria and be able to study with Elliott Fisk. The book has more to do with all of my other experiences, because obviously living in Austria, I learned a lot more than just the guitar.
You also have a website, ferrisguitar.com. It talks not only about your life story, but it's also an inspiration for others.
Basically, my goal with my website was kind of to document my success. In a way, it started out that way, and then I realized, my gosh, this story could really inspire a lot of guitarists, and possibly they might take the guitar as far as I've taken it, or at least be inspired to either start the instrument or continue studying it. So it started out as a small personal website, and grew, and now I think it's actually quite a nice resource for guitarists. There's pretty much everything on it. It's got encyclopedias, it's got a guitar tuner, it's got lots of websites for guitarists. And I kind of on a side note, I do, as kind of a hobby, I do what is called a composer blog.
Okay.
Basically, every once in a while, I write small articles on famous composers. It's not basically going into a lot of research. I mean, it's more of a fun little article to read, with the hopes that the people reading might learn a little bit about different composers and kind of broaden their knowledge.
Well, I bet you would have liked to have something like that when you were taking those classes.
Yes, exactly. Actually, that's the reason why I started it because I kept thinking that it would be interesting for maybe some people in going to music school, going to college. They might hook on to the RSS feed, and just very casually every week, every couple of weeks, just learn something new about a famous composer.
Well, you also mentioned your father and his music store that's in Michigan. Tell us a little bit about your dad and how he got you into music.
Well, my dad's music store, it's Ferris Music Center. It's been one of the most noted music stores in Southwest Michigan. It's almost kind of a landmark. It's been there for I think over 35 years. We've always sold musical instruments, music books to the local community. Of course, guitars and drums and amplifiers, everything to that extent. And we've been known in southwestern Michigan to wheel and deal and give people a lot of a good means to start playing an instrument as well as continue, or even if you're a professional, to get a good deal on nice equipment and such. One thing that has been interesting for me was the opportunity to meet a lot of aspiring new guitarists and musicians in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's do this. Again, your website is ferrisguitar.com. We'll put a link up on our site next to your interview to get readers or listeners over to your site. Also, your book is Crossing Borders. Where can we find more about that book, and where is it available?
Well, Crossing Borders, it's basically available on Barnes & Noble or Amazon, or you could even order it in your local bookstore. I'm actually going to be having a book tour, a virtual book tour on the 1st of February. I'm kind of excited about that. And yeah, basically, if anybody would like to take a glance at my book, it would be more than a pleasure, and I'd like to hear feedback. If anybody ever wants to contact me through my website, I'd love to hear what you thought of it. Well,
good luck on your virtual book tour. And again, we've been speaking with Michael Ferris, author of Crossing Borders, and his website is ferrisguitar.com. He joins us from Austria. And Michael, wishing you all the best, and thanks for taking out time from your busy day to be with us.
Thank you so much.